How concerned are you that the signings that they made on the defensive side of the ball were kind of younger guys that they were hoping to kind of mold into something, as opposed to the Conklin and some of the guy and Hooper on the offensive side of the ball, and then 10 overall you get Jedrick Wills. How concerned are you that they kind of went a little light as far as experience on the defensive side of the ball?
Some of those guys, I mean, you got a guy like Sendeju who's got a long, he's pretty long in the tooth. He's basically hoping for another year in the sun. A guy like B.J. Goodson, I think it makes sense on their end for the simple fact of, okay, if B.J. Goodson leaves after this year, if he has a really good year, he's playing for a contract in 2021. If he leaves after this year, then you're able to grab a compensation pick from that. So I can get that. The linebackers that they have are just frighteningly young, frighteningly young. And I'm worried about that. I love Mac Wilson. Pro Football Focus hates him. I love the kid. I think he's great. I think that he's all over the football. I think he's making plays. I think he runs with his ass on fire. I just love him. I like him personally. I think he's a good kid. I think Siane Takitaki is a good guy. I think that I'm a little bit nervous about either one of those guys making the calls, though, because they're very, very young. You only have the free agents that you can get, you only have those guys who are available in that class. So them going after Hooper, that's a win. It helps out their tight end group. Them going after Jack Conklin, it's a win. It helps out their offensive line. Could they win after a couple of guys defensively? Absolutely. But if those guys aren't as interested and those guys don't make sense, you kind of do what you have to do. And I look at a couple of the other teams in the division as kind of the blueprint for what you have to do. When you look at Pittsburgh, they have spent 5 to 6 years now building that defense the way they want. They thought they'd hit last year, and then Ben Roethlisberger got hurt. Baltimore, I think, is the best example. You lose Darius Smith, you lose C.J. Mosley. You start out; it's a little rough to start the season. You end up one of the best defenses in the NFL over the second half of the season because you have the coaching staff, because you don't fire people, because you're a successful football team, and you also have guys who you don't have to start as rookies. They can develop and learn, and you can take third and fourth and fifth and sixth round guys even and turn those guys into players for you. Baltimore has a system. Pittsburgh has a system. When you're firing coaches every other year like we have to in Cleveland, you're not developing a system. So this offense is good. This offense can go to the playoffs. You just have to unlock that. Baker has to unlock that. But the defense is going to lose a couple of games this year. Defense is going to lose a couple of games, especially if Miles stays healthy. I think they can still be decent. But if something bad happens to Miles, we saw it last year in the final 6 games. Those guys were gassed. There's very little depth still, and I am worried about that going into this year.